Hello, and happy last day of official summer for the Northern Hemisphere, at least. Welcome to Angular World Tour. This is a collaboration between Angular Mountain View, Angular SF, Modern Web, and GDG Silicon Valley, who is actually streaming us live to a watch party at Hacker Dojo. So hello and welcome, everyone. We originally had 2 guest speakers scheduled for you today. However, unfortunately, COVID strikes again and Deborah is unable to make it. However, we are super excited to still be bringing you the one and only Aristeidis Bampakos. Hello, Ari.
Hello, Tara. I'm very happy to be here. And also I wanted to say hi to Deborah, and I'm very sorry for get COVID. Get well soon, Deborah.
Yes. Ari is an Angular GDE that works as a web development team lead at Plex-Earth. He is the author of 2 successful books, Learning Angular 3rd edition and Angular Projects 2nd edition, and is passionate about helping the developer community to learn and grow. His passion for teaching has led him to become an Angular senior tech instructor at Code.hub, where he nurtures aspiring Angular developers and professionals. We are so happy to have you joining us today. He will be presenting on Angular, Electron, and Friends. So on that note, if you're ready, I'm going to hand the mic over to you.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
So hello, everyone. Thanks very much for the great introduction, Tara. And today, I'm going to talk about Angular and Electron and some of their friends. And I will not reveal what their friends are. I will tell to you later on. So the actual topic would be how we can integrate an Angular application with Electron and convert it into a desktop one. So some things about me. As Tara said, I work as a web development team lead at Plex-Earth. I live in Greece, in the second biggest island, which is called Evia, and I'm also an Angular GDE, and I work as a senior Angular tech instructor at CodeHub. CodeHub is a private educational institute in Greece, where we teach the Angular framework to other developers and individuals. I'm also the lead maintainer of the Greek translation of the official Angular documentation, and also I have authored 2 books about Angular. The second one, which is called Angular Projects 2nd edition, has won 3 awards, and the first one, which is called Learning Angular, is more destined for beginners to the Angular framework. Currently, I'm writing my 3rd book about Angular, which is going to be published on the beginning of 2023. So stay tuned. If you want to follow me on social media and learn about me and my news, you can check out my Google developer profile at g.dev/Aristeidis. So the agenda today is, first, we will see how to run an Angular application, a new one or an existing one, in desktop mode with Electron. Then we will learn how to use Angular dev tools and debug an Angular application from the comfort of our desktop. And finally, we will see how we can interact and access the Electron API inside an Angular application. First, some basics, but I promise the basics will not be so many. My talk will be more a coding session. So first, what is Angular? Angular is a platform that allows us to build highly scalable and cross-platform web applications with TypeScript. The official documentation for the Angular platform is you can find it on angular.io. Now, Electron, or Electron.js, maybe you can hear it like this, is a framework, a JavaScript framework that allows us to build cross-platform desktop applications with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And when we say cross-platform, we mean that Electron applications can run normally on the three main operating systems: Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. You can find the official documentation of the Electron framework at electronjs.org. Now, why should someone use Electron if they are a web developer? Well, Electron is built with Node.js and Chromium, so you can leverage your existing web skills and create desktop applications by writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Many popular applications have been built with Electron, like Slack, WhatsApp, Skype, or Visual Studio Code. And how do we write an Electron application? Now, this snippet, this code, is the minimal Hello World application that you can write with Electron. Electron is an NPM package, so you can install it using the NPM client, and you need to import two artifacts, the app and the browser window. As you can see, the browser window is used to create a desktop window of our application, and we can pass various options like the width and height of the window. After, we use the load file method on the browser window, and we pass the content that we want to display inside our desktop window. The content can be any HTML file. In this case, is index.html file, which coincides with the main HTML file of an Angular application. And finally, after we have created our window, we use the when-ready promise on the global app object to create it. So, after we write this Electron application, which is a JavaScript file, right? Or you can also write it in TypeScript and compile and transpile it to JavaScript. How do we run it? Well, we can use the npm client executable Electron and pass the name of our JavaScript file as a parameter. And then a desktop window will appear with the HTML file inside as a content. So, how are we supposed to build an Electron application and an Angular application? And when we say different applications, we actually mean different code bases. For example, we have the Electron code base, which does certain things, and our Angular code base, which does other things. So how do we compile them? We need to find a way to compile them together. After we find a way to compile them, we need to place both code bases, their output, their generated files, inside the dist folder of the Angular application. Why? Because, as we saw earlier, the Electron code needs to find the index.html file to load. So if they're in the same directory, it can normally find it. And then we can use the npm client executable to run our Electron application as we saw earlier. Okay, Aris, so this seems a bit complicated. I mean, you need to find a way to configure your build pipeline so that it builds the Electron code base, it builds Angular code base, it puts it in the same folder, and blah, 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 blah. So why should you bother to do this and instead use a library that I have created, which is called ngx-electronify? So let me introduce the first friend of our Angular and Electron, the ngx-electronify. It allows you mainly to run an Angular application with Electron as a desktop window. ngx-electronify is an npm package that you can install, and you can find their documentation on npmjs.com/ngx-electronify. Now, 1 year before, I had the pleasure to present the first version of ngx-electronify in DevFest Greece and Cyprus 2021. And at that time, some of the upcoming features that I was thinking to add in the library was first, the ability to export your Angular application as a native executable desktop. Second, to integrate Angular dev tools for debugging. And third, to interact with the Electron API. So today, I'm very happy to announce that the last two are already done, and I will showcase them to you today. So first, let's see the documentation of ngx-electronify. Here you can see the documentation on the npm.js website. It contains instructions on how to install it on an existing Angular application, how you can use it, what are the available options that you can pass, because internally the ngx-electronify is an Angular CLI builder, and actually it hooks on the Angular CLI build process, as we will see later. And also it has some other additional information. So let's jump to the coding session. Now I have created an Angular application, the minimum Angular application, and we will try first to run it as a desktop, to run it in a desktop window using Electron. Then we will see how to debug it, and finally how to communicate with the Electron API. So let's get started. First, we need to install the ngx-electronify, and we can do this using the Angular CLI, and particularly we can use the ng executable add ngx-electronify, which is the name of the library. Now, this library has built with, of course, Angular in mind, and that is why you can use Angular CLI schematics to install it. So the Angular CLI says that it finds the specific version. So would you like to proceed? Of course. So it starts downloading the package and installing it. It will not take long because I have already downloaded. So I think depending on the speed of the internet connection, but I think we will be all right. And that's it. So you can see that the application also modified our angular.json file. It added some information so that we can run the library. So to run now our Angular application with Electron, we just need to execute the ng-run command, pass the name of our application, my app, and then colon, and the name desktop. Desktop is the name of the Angular CLI builder, which is used internally. So this command now will build our Angular project. It will start the Angular web development server. It will serve it at the usual localhost 4200, and then it will open a desktop window that will preview our application on the specific port. So this is our desktop application. This is our application which runs on the desktop, on a desktop window. Now this window that you see is Chromium. So anything that applies on Chrome, most of the things also apply to here. For example, we can see that we have developer tools that we can use. Let me zoom it. It's just like a Chromium browser. So let me now open another browser to show you something very cool. Okay, so here, no. Here we have our desktop application, our application that runs in the desktop window. And here I will load my application, the same application, but on the web client. So these are two identical applications. On the right, we have the web version. On the left, we have the desktop version. If I open my project on Visual Studio Code now, Sorry about the theme, let me switch. And let's zoom. Okay. So if we open the TypeScript file of our main component, which is the app.component.ts, and we change this style here, which is displayed on each page, and let's say that we write hello Angular World Tour. If I save it, if I go to the desktop, to the web version, you can see that the title on the top has been updated. If I go to the desktop version now, here also the title of the application has been changed. It is actually the same application. So one usage that maybe someone can use this library is if they want to develop an Angular application and they want to have it in a separate window to test it in a desktop environment. So now, if I open this desktop window a bit more, hold on. If I go to the developer tools and go to the Angular tab, you can see that this is the Angular Dev Tools, the original Angular Dev Tools extension from Chrome that allows us to debug and profile Angular applications. So everything we can do with Angular Developer Tools on a web application, still the same applies in the desktop one. Right. Let me show you another magic thing that this library can do. So let me close this and stop this one. Okay, let's say that we want now to access the Electron API from our Angular application. For example, we want to modify the title of our component so that it displays different data when it runs on the desktop mode and different data when it runs on the web. So there is a second friend of the Angular and Electron, which is called ngx-electronizer. Electronizer. Sorry. And there is a service which is called Electron service. Now, this ngx-electronizer is a separate library that I have built, and it is embedded inside the ngx-electronify family. But you can use it separately if you want. For example, you can install it using the npm install ngx-electronizer, and use it in your Angular application without ngx-electronify. But it still remains in the same ngx-electronify family. So this library contains an Angular service that exposes a part of the Electron API. So for example, if I want to inject the service here, and maybe in the onInit method, let's say in the onInit that we want to change the title and say if the isElectron app property of the Electron service is true, we will display desktop. And if it is false, which it actually means it's a web application, we will display the web. Of course, as you can see, Electron service has other properties that someone can use. These are just a part of the Electron API. It's not the whole Electron API, but I hope that in the future I will add some more properties from the Electron API. So if we save this and run our application again, but this time we will pass the allow integration option. The allow integration will allow us to actually access the Electron API. This is turned off by default because of security reasons. So if we run it like this, okay. Now this is my desktop window and this is my web browser. So if I refresh this, it says web app is running because it has identified that this is not an Electron app, so you are a web app. And the desktop one displays desktop app because it can understand that this is an Electron application. So let me switch back to my slides. That's all I got for today for you. I hope I made you curious about what Electron can do with Angular. To recap, Angular can definitely run on desktop using Electron. And also Angular with Electron is a very powerful combination because you can create amazing applications. In the company that I work, we have 2 applications that run on Angular and Electron. We also saw that you can definitely build Angular application in desktop with no code, right? Just invoking the ngx-electronify library. And if someone wants to go further down the line and add some interaction with the Electron API, this is very easy with the ngx-electronizer library that I showed to you. So thanks very much for watching my talk, and I would be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. You're muted, Tara.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you so much. There is a bit of a delay between the YouTube and here, so we can give it just a few seconds to see if anybody has any questions to pop up. But that was a very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
All right. And if we don't have any questions popping up in the thread right now, if anybody has any questions that they think of later on, feel free to find him on Twitter at Bampakos and connect and follow, and you can get your questions answered there, or you can always pop a question in the YouTube comments and we will be circling back periodically to check those and address those. And it looks like we just had a question pop up. Is there any pre-built join to API to query the USB ports?
I'm not aware of such an API, a built-in API from the Electron, but you can definitely check out the electronjs.org/docs and search for any documentation there. Just a note that if Node.js has such an API for querying the USB ports, you can definitely use it because Electron under the hood uses Node.js. So you can also check out the Node.js documentation to check if there is such an API.
Excellent. All right. Okay, and if there are no other questions, I thank everybody again for joining us today. I apologize for the shorter episode than what you might have been expecting. We will be back again next month. We are doing an Angular World Tour in October and November. It will be the third Wednesday of each month. Taking December off and plan on coming back in January. So feel free to check in and follow along on Twitter, and I hope to see you all for the next episode next month. And Aristeidis, thank you so much again for joining us today. And I hope everyone has a really great remainder of their day.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.